One on three. One, two, three. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of True Crime and Cocktails. We're so glad that you're here. As always, I am your host, Lauren Ash, and as always, I am joined by my co-hostess with the most S, Christy Oxborrow. How you feeling?
I'm good,
Oh,
but I have a bone to pick.
there's a caveat.
There is. This is specifically a current anger that I have with Amazon Prime.
I'm
Specifically,
listening.
specifically their streaming service.
Oh,
We can have our discussions about Amazon and all of that another day, but specifically to Amazon Prime. Now, they released a show. I made sure to get the dates so I can tell you exact dates. They released a show April 3rd of this year, 2025.
okay.
It's called The Bondsman.
Okay.
It stars Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
He's essentially a bondsman for the devil hunting down demons.
Oh,
Yeah. Half-hour show,
half
which
hour.
but they pack so much in. You're like, oh my God,
Wow.
it's amazing. Um, his ex-wife is played by Jennifer Nettles, which I did say out loud to my husband, is that Jennifer Nettles? And he went, I don't know, is it? And I went, from Sugarland, Jennifer Nettles? It is. It
Thank you
is.
for that.
Kevin Bacon's mother is played by Beth Grant. And I know people may be not as familiar with the name. I promise you, if you saw her face, you'd be like, oh my God, of course. She has been part of nearly 250 projects in her career, including she's most well known for Donnie Darko.
Okay.
She was on The Mindy Project. She
That's
played
where I know her
Beverly.
from. Yep.
And you know where else you know her from? She was Helen on Speed.
I was just gonna say.
And I'm going to tell you, when Mama comes in and wants to help with the demon hunting, I'm like, yes, please. I want Kevin Bacon and his mama out there fighting fucking demons. That's what I want. And I'm so into it. There's only 8 episodes of the first season, and I'm only at the sixth one so far. Comes out April 3rd. They dropped all the episodes April 3rd. May 16th, they canceled it.
Mm,
I hadn't even seen it by May 16th. I
mm.
hadn't even heard it existed. So my complaint, Prime Video, is number one, advertise your shows. Number two, give them a minute to breathe. Because I can only envision they were maybe not getting enough people watching this show that they were like, oh, well, we'll just cancel it. And to that I say, how dare you? Because I know there's 2 episodes left, and that's not going to wrap everything up. And that's going to piss me off. So
Yeah.
to Netflix, Hulu, literally any other streaming service, for the love, pick up The Bondsman so we can have more seasons.
Yeah.
You don't know that you need Kevin Bacon hunting demons until you're given it just a
Yeah.
taste, and then it rips it out from underneath you. I knew this going in. I knew it was canceled, and I was pissed. And I just went, well, I'll give it a chance anyway. And I want more than what's left. I understand it takes time to make TV, so I'm willing. I'm willing to wait.
Yeah.
I like Stranger Things. I'm willing to wait for that. Barely. I'm very
Hmm.
frustrated with what they've decided to do. But for this, I'm pissed. I'm just pissed that they've canceled it. How do you cancel a show after like 6 weeks?
Sometimes they cancel them even quicker. I mean, it's rare on streaming. I will give you that. I just feel like traditionally, like network shows,
Sure.
they'll air two or three and then sometimes just cancel it and pull the rest.
It's just
Uh, Case in point,
insane.
a show from the mid 2000s, early 2000s called Runaway, starring Donnie Wahlberg. They canceled it and
Correct.
pulled it before my episode aired. So
Oh,
that one's always stung. Um,
yes.
yeah,
So have you
I
never
know.
seen it?
Well, yes, I have seen the clip.
Oh,
It just
okay.
didn't air,
That's a slap in the face.
isn't it? But yeah, it's interesting because on streamers, it's like sometimes it'll take a month or two for them to like for a show to get a following and then it might blow up a little bit or whatever. It makes me wonder if there's something else at play. Now, is it a comedy?
It's listed as a horror comedy. I don't know that I'd say comedy,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I see it more as like a horror drama. But I mean, oh, I guess I've laughed a couple of times, but that was all because of Mama. I really like I really like her.
I like that you
Just
guys are on a first name
we
basis,
we
essentially.
are. We are. We are. I'm obsessed with Beth Grant. Um I love her so much, especially in this. Uh I'm just gutted to find a show that I'm like, "Oh, yes." And then to know there's not more. I mean, look, could I get into a very long tirade about how pissed I am that Stranger Things is now being dragged out where they're now bringing it out? Oh God, I think in like December or something. They're bringing it out like so late and then they're separating it into two parts and then the finale episode is coming out like New Year's Eve. And I was like, way to force me to have that as my New Year's plan. Because the internet, forgive me, internet, but the internet has no chill anymore about spoilers. Back in
Yeah.
my day,
Yeah.
there used to be a set amount of time that people would just wait before they would talk about spoilers to spare anybody else. And now it's like the second the show is done airing, all the spoilers.
Yeah. You got to be on a full media lockout.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
I can't imagine being able to do. It's
Yeah.
tough.
It's hard. It's hard. We live in trying times.
We do. You can't, the idea that you actually expect me to ignore my phone for multiple days?
Yeah, they made us this way.
They did.
You know what I mean? They made us
How,
this way.
like, you really think I can go multiple days without checking on I think I'm up to five different duck accounts that I follow now? There's
Oh,
a guy who found a duck. He's like a little baby duckling, and the parents weren't there, so he took it in and he's like raising it. It's like in his house. He's got like the heat lamps. He's got a special place for it. Then he'll like take him to the park so the duck can like be near the water. And it's so cute. He's named it Ductavius. I couldn't be happier. At least that's the most recent of the duck accounts, but there's at least five of them that I follow now.
look, most of my Instagram feed, most of it
Hmm.
is dog accounts.
Oh, I get that.
Dog accounts, animal accounts, cute dog accounts, animal
You
rescues.
you just want to see joy.
I just want joy.
Yeah, I
I
get that.
just want joy. Um, but I like this. I like this for you. I like
Yeah.
this duck account.
Yeah, I'm just sad it took me so long to embrace my love of ducks, but now that I'm here,
Well, I also love that the caveat for you embracing your love of ducks was proclaiming your discomfort slash fear of all birds, and
yeah,
then realizing, no, 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 not only do I not fear ducks, I
yeah,
deeply love them.
I do. I really, really do. Um, and yeah, I love that it was so recent, but I already can't remember how it like how it A went to be. But I there's already been multiple Google searches of like where are the best places to see ducks because and I know
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
have a park in the middle of my own town that gets the occasional duck, but I'm like, where's like a place where I'm going to be like surprised by the amount of ducks? I've gone on bird websites.
Have you started collecting pieces of old bread so you can feed the ducks?
I heard something about you're not supposed to feed them bread anymore.
That was a test and you passed.
Here's the joke. The quote To quote the episode of Friends that was the Chandler and Monica's wedding, that was a risky little game. I don't know why that line has stuck with me for years. I use it a lot because in my heart, as soon as you asked, in my heart, I was like, I don't think you're supposed to do that. But I'm like, I don't want her to feel bad to still think that you're supposed to do. So then I was like, do I, in that moment, I was like, do I say it? I don't want her to feel bad. And so I almost just went, I should do that. Like just to, oh,
Well, then you should know
oh
on my
God.
side.
Yeah,
My side, I wouldn't have thrown you under the bus in that moment. I
of
wouldn't have thrown you
course.
under the bus.
Of course. I should have known. Safe space.
Yeah,
Safe space.
safe space, exactly. But yes, they do say you're not supposed to feed them bread.
Isn't that fascinating? Part of me is like, do I just take peas? They seem
Can
to
they eat
love
peas?
peas.
Huh.
Some of my
Like
favorite
snap
videos are
peas?
are watching them eat peas. Like somebody shells like the little peas and they put them in like a bowl of water and go, here you go. And they just go nuts. One may
Quackers?
even say quackers. Yeah. I love I love that our brains are constantly like, what's a bit we can do about a duck? And we're
Yep.
just like at some point we can bring up quackers.
Yep. Well, listen, I'll make sure to give you my bill on the way out.
Oh, I'm down.
Oh, oh,
Is this just a pun show now?
yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to the pun show. Get it?
Oh,
Instead of
nicely
gun show.
done. Nicely done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
We've aged.
we've aged. I think the day that you started Googling where can I see ducks, you've crossed over. And I also need you
Oh,
to
yeah.
know there was something I looked up earlier today. God, I can't even remember what it was, but there was a comment I got from a youth on social
Oh,
media,
boy.
and they said something, and I didn't know what it was. And I can't even remember, again, my brain's a sieve these days, but I Googled, and this was my literal Google, whatever it was,
Mhm.
teen speak.
Yep. Hmm.
And I hit enter and I went, Jesus, I, I've crossed over.
Oh, boy. Yeah. I mean, I've had to, for episodes, like type a word in and be like, this country slang, because I'm like, I don't know what that word means. So it's just a matter of
Teen
time.
speak.
Well, yeah, it's just a matter of time before I don't understand what the teens are saying either.
Oh, yeah. There's so many things.
I only know what I know about teen language because I live with I was going to say I live with two of them. No, that one's no longer a teen. I live with a teen.
Right.
And I don't feel like he really uses a lot of like, well, at least not to me anyway, a lot of like weird lingo and stuff. So,
Remember? Remember when your oldest was, oh God, I can't remember, like early teens maybe, and it was when all the youth was doing the Tide Pod challenge, and I earnestly was like, "You need to talk to him about this."
yeah, I do recall your
I
concern
was
over Tide Pods. Yeah.
so concerned, and then you did talk to him, and he was like, "Why would I do that?" I was like, "Oh, right, right. I guess he does have some common sense. Right. Okay. Bye bye."
I mean, think of how long ago the Tide Pod challenge was.
It was at least what, 7 years, 8 years? I don't know.
Easily. Like that was a beat, right? My middle, now teen, the other day I was setting the dishwasher because I think I was going to bed or something. I don't know, doesn't matter. And I grabbed a pod, put it in the dishwasher, and he went, Tide Pod challenge. And I was like, I can't believe that dusty corner of the internet still gets peeked at.
Well, and did you talk to him about it? Because now it's making me feel like only you can talk to your children about Tide Pods.
I love that I didn't have a concern that of any of them that one would do it. But you'll love this. I maybe need to stand down about what I think he's capable of because they went camping with school and it was like a year-end kind of fun activity sort of thing. And they had to get into groups, and each group was responsible for like bring your own food. One person brings a tent. The tents have to come to school a week early. They all go outside and set them up to prove to the teachers these kids can set these tents up because the last thing you want is to get out in the wilderness and these kids can't set up these tents. because you're taking like 60 plus kids with you, so I get it.
Oh my God. This already sounds like a recipe for disaster, just
Oh
in
yeah,
general.
nightmare. Not interested. Well, why do you think I didn't volunteer? So he gets a group. They're like, "Hey, this is what's happening," and I was like, "Great." Somebody else was bringing the tent. They were all happy with this. Great. He comes home. I think nothing of it. We were like, "Put all your stuff here. We'll wash it. Whatever." He's emptying bags. I don't look at any of his stuff. I don't think like check things to make sure anything's okay. I'm like, I'm just gonna trust it's fine. Go to fill his water bottle. Like go to wash it out before school because he took it with him because they were going to be out in the hot sun for a day. So he took this one water bottle that he always takes to school and we're like, gotta wash that and refill it for school the next morning. And it has like it's a metal water bottle and at the bottom it has a silicone sleeve so that it doesn't slide around on his desk. And you look at the sleeve and the bottom of it shredded. Shredded. Like at first I thought it got melted in a fire, but then you look and you're like, no, no, all the pieces are there, but it is shredded to hell. Take that off. The bottom dented. Like this bottle was like decent quality. Now very dented, beat to hell. School's over in like 3 weeks. I'm not buying him a new one. Denty McDent can is your new water bottle for the rest of the year. That's just is what it is. So I'm like, what the hell happened? Well, they were putting up the tent. They didn't have a hammer. It was the only one that brought anything metal. So they used his water bottle to hammer in the tent pegs. And I was like, if you're going to do that, take off the silicone first. It's
I don't know
fine.
whether to be impressed or shake my head.
Oh, I've done both about this. I'm just very like resourceful. But like you, at one point, you want to say, like, oh, good job. On the other hand, you want to be like, what's happening? What are we
Yeah.
doing?
I did not see that coming. Of all the turns this could have taken, I did
Yeah.
not see. And then they used his water bottle to hammer in the tent poles. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah. He's always had a real gift for doing something that you go, huh,
Yeah.
okay. Like, yeah.
And I would say too, outside the box.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely like, he'll come up with something. He also loves a pun. So he would
Hmm.
have loved the opening of this show.
Yeah.
He would have loved all of that. He loves puns, dad jokes, all of that. He thinks that's hysterical. He makes so many puns that it's almost too much.
Hmm.
And he comes up with ones that I couldn't even imagine and so quickly that part of me is like, ah, what a joy you are. And the other part of me is like, oh, good luck in high school.
Hmm.
I do worry about that.
Right. Well, there's a butt for every seat.
Yeah. Yeah. Look,
They'll
I
be, meaning
also,
someone will appreciate them. You know what I mean?
yes. My, I'm just like, if high school's going to change it, don't let it change it too much.
Yeah.
Keep some of that weirdness that you've had since you were young.
Yes.
I don't know. He
I
thinks quickly on his feet and
I think everyone should keep the weirdness that they have since they were young.
yeah. I actually I like to get more of mine back. And to the people who are like, "Oh, you've got plenty." I'd like more.
Yeah.
I want to be like,
Where the people are.
thank you so much. I absolutely don't.
Yep.
Um that's just who I am. The older I get, the more I'm like, oh, less people around me would be great. Um, I wanna be that old woman that, people are like, oh, she's a kook.
Hmm.
Because if no one's calling me a kook, what am I even doing?
Yeah.
I want to just like 60 and I just let go. And I'm just like a full kook. I do whatever I want. That that I'm excited about. I
Yeah.
want to be the funnest 80-year-old lady to exist.
I feel like you will be.
I hope at 80, I'm still yelling about Kevin Bacon.
Well, I think his bacon may be cooked by then.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, I can't really think about the different actors that we're going to have to live through.
All of them.
Yeah. Some have already been like hard enough, but I'm like, there are some I won't notice. And there are going to be some that I go, I thought they died like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And then there are going to be ones that I don't believe and I freak out.
Yeah.
And I'm not ready for that.
I
So I
hear
want to
you.
be I want to be full kook so I can wring the most joy out of the sponge that is life. I was
Thank
really
you so much.
was really going for something there.
You ever see Grey Gardens?
I have not, but I don't know if I should be insulted
Mm,
or taken with that. Yeah.
it's a mother-daughter duo. So in
Yeah,
our
okay.
case, maybe in this case you'd be the mother only because
Yeah.
she's more of a homebody and the younger
Oh,
one, you should just watch it. You should just watch it.
I'll write it down.
It's a yeah, I mean it's again full kook, I think fits. Um Bill Hader and Fred Armisen did a very enjoyable parody also.
Oh,
Although it was
sure.
real people, but anyway, I'm not selling any of this. I'm not selling
Oh,
any
you
of it.
had me at kook.
Yeah.
And that a kook and a homebody? I like
Every
both of
time we
those things.
every time we hear we say kook, I hear Snoop, Snoop a loop, and then I think of um that movie, Old School. I
There
got
it
there.
is.
I
There it
got
is.
there.
And I,
It's that
well,
the recall is slower.
sure.
I texted you activate earlier, I believe. What was it? I'm pulling it up. I texted you invoice when I meant to say invite. That's not right.
Um, I mean, I say this to try and make you feel better about that. I texted you that I'm attracted to Chad Smith when he drums. So I think in the land of like, where would you rather be mentally? Maybe, maybe you're doing okay.
Listen, for those who don't know, Chad Smith is, of course, the drummer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who bears a striking resemblance to Will Ferrell. Now,
Mhm.
Christy did make it clear to me in her message that she's not attracted to Will Ferrell and she's only attracted to Chad Smith while he drums. So it's
Yeah,
a very kind of small window for
yeah,
Mr. Smith.
it is. It
Yeah.
is. Not so much in the rest, but when the beats are going, then I'm okay.
When the beats are going.
I don't know if I can ever get kooky enough to mask this. You know what I
I
mean?
don't
Like I
want you
don't.
to mask it. I
I
think
know.
we're just in it now, baby.
Oh yeah, I've just accepted like this is just who I am, and
Yeah.
where else can I go? Like I don't know. I'm older. The white in my hair used to just be underneath, so you couldn't really tell. But now there's very obvious large chunks in my hair that prove I'm a lady of a certain age. And I'm just running with it. It just
Again,
is what it
yours
is.
yours do look blonde is the thing. It looks like you have like blonde highlights.
Yeah, it did.
Oh, is it? I haven't seen you in a long time. Is that what it
The
is?
the problem is, I specifically, I mean, you can't tell on camera, but right here I have a very thick chunk of white. And because my hair is very long right now, I spend a lot of time with my hair up, so I have swipes of white that are very obviously white.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, that does remind me I do need to get a haircut, but I just forget. I made myself a list of appointments that need to get made. I
Hmm.
was like, I've got to get a haircut. I need to make a dentist appointment. I had to make an appointment for my car. So I wrote down all these things and I was like, these are all the things I had to do. And there was like 5 or 6 things. And I crossed off like 3 or 4 of them. And I was like, ha, done. No, you're not. But I was so impressed that I got so many done in one morning that I gave myself a pass on doing the rest. So I'm like, finish. Don't praise now. Finish the list.
Right.
I still have it. I'll get there. Maybe I'll have to make a new list
Yeah.
because I'll see all the like old crossouts and that'll haunt me and I'll need to start fresh.
Yeah, just start a new list.
I do like a list.
You love a list. Yeah.
Oh, I just thought of something. I love that I was going to tell you this before we recorded, but because it doesn't matter either way. Um, we were speaking of my children, specifically my middle one, who's very out of the box. So this afternoon, I think I was in the bathroom or something, and I come out and he was like, I'm gonna get a tattoo. And I was like, you're 13, calm down. And I was like, and immediately, like as someone with tattoos, I immediately was like, I want you to know they hurt so much more than you think you do. Like there are specific spots on the body that will hurt so much more than others. You want to make sure you like it for life. Like these are, I'm not saying no, not obviously I'm saying no now, but like in the future, I'm
Yeah.
not going to be like, don't do it. Because I mean, I've done it. But then he tells me him and his older brother found a picture online of like, the front of like a Wiimote where there's the 4 little squares where one
Hmm.
lights up to tell you each one. They want to get them, the three brothers, and have the each like the oldest being player one, the middle being player two, and the youngest being player three. And I'm like, you want to get brother tattoos together? I'll drive you. I was like,
Sure, you're 13 and still growing into your own skin, but God.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, this wouldn't be till they're adults,
Of
but I'm like,
course, of
but I
course.
immediately went from like, it hurts. It's like so much, like, I'm like, if it's just slamming into your body, it's painful. Like, it's just like, I really tried to push, you're not going to like it. And then immediately flipped to like, I will be in the car. Let's
It's
go.
not that bad. Suddenly you're
Yeah.
like,
It's like
yeah,
a
they
whisper.
push, but
Yeah.
you forget. You
Yeah.
get like you get used to it.
Yeah. But immediately I was like, yeah. Oh, I do believe my first comment was he said, we're going to get tattoos. And I said, unless they're a heart with mother, I'm going to say no. I don't want them to get mother specifically, but like,
Mother.
yeah. But then I was like, you would actually get tattoos of like brother tattoos. I'm like, that's the dream. So my hope is like, I don't know, 10, 15 years from now, then I'll be like, now you can get your brother tattoos. Because I
Yeah.
got to make sure the youngest is up there.
Yeah.
I don't know that he'll be on board, but I'm like, I would love to see you guys get
Oh,
those
I
tattoos.
mean,
I
it's
think that's,
beautiful.
yes. And I was like, and the oldest one's on board? That's beautiful. I love it.
I think the other question that I have, and this is one that you can't answer, is like,
Yeah.
how did that discussion start between your oldest and your 13-year-old? Like, who was the one to bring it up? I feel like likely the oldest, but then I'm like, I like that this organically happened. Like, because one thing we know is true.
Yeah.
One of them had to suggest matching brother tattoos.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, I think, because they showed me a picture, so I think I think they were like TikToking or something, and it
Hmm.
came up, but it went from that to, hey, we should do this. And I'm instantly like, ah, I love that idea. I love that idea so much.
It's really cute.
Oh, it's cute. And immediately I'm like, fuck, I should have had 4. I'm just giving my husband a moment to have a small stroke at the thought of
Oh,
having 4 children.
you were
Yeah.
done. We had the
Oh, yes.
conversation.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I did say the other day, what would life have been if instead of having the three different ages, if we had triplets, just one set of triplets? And we were trying to decide like what age, if they were triplets, which age would we have preferred right now for us? Like, would we want 3 20-year-olds right now? I don't think we'd have enough food budget to do that. Or it's like, or would we want 3 13-year-olds or 3 9-year-olds? And my husband was just like, I don't think that we could. I'm like, oh, I don't know. We would have survived like 0 to 5.
Oof.
But I'm like, three, my youngest age. I mean, at this point, doing it for so long, it would just be like second nature. But
Yeah.
oof, yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
the I don't know what the ideal is there.
I don't know.
Three
I
40
don't.
year olds? Like I
Oh,
don't know.
I don't know anybody. I don't think I know anybody with triplets. I know a few people with twins, and they were all very surprised. And they were like, you just get used to it. It's just like an automatic, like, there's just two of them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know I would have been that chill about it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how anyone has one child. So the idea that it's like, oh, there's just two,
Mm.
I tip my hat.
It's also the transition to go going from one to two that it's a surprise. It's a
Yeah.
real surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes one can be like, oh, that's no problem. And then sometimes they kind of like scream for 2 years. And you're like, yep, a piece of me died that day, approximately 18 to 20 years ago. And I don't know that I ever came back. Um, and
You
that's
didn't.
okay. That's okay.
You didn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
Not fully. Not fully.
there's a darkness that hovers in there.
Yeah. Oh, it
Yeah.
happens to all of you. And by all of you, I
Yeah.
mean the parented or the parenting,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah. There is a piece of you that I watch slip away. I watch the beautiful, wonderful souls that I've known for so long as
Yep.
childless people. I watch a
Yeah.
piece of them disappear.
Yep.
Actually, no, I watch all of them disappear. And then
Yeah.
slowly over
Oh,
time, the
yeah.
pieces come back. But
Yep.
there's always a small chunk. It's like if you
Yep.
break a vase and then you glue it back together, there's gonna be one piece that it's like, I don't know where this goes. That's the piece that's lost for good. And
Yeah.
listen, I'm sure you're better for it. And it's not something you
Yeah.
necessarily always notice. Like you can live without a gallbladder. It's that kind of thing.
Sure. Sure. What I love is you went vase phase. I don't know which way we're supposed to say it. Um, and my brain immediately was like, it's like buying a puzzle at the thrift store.
Yeah.
You're gonna put it together, but oh, missing a couple of pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's again, parenthood, beautiful thing. Um, but by the end, I think you feel like you're missing some pieces. You're like, that puzzle doesn't fit like it used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember making that metaphor once to a boyfriend about like, oh, it's like I'm a vase, whatever we're gonna say,
Yeah.
garage. Let's call the whole thing off. Um, it's like I'm a vase that's been broken and then like put back together, but then it gets broken again and put back together and broken again and put back together, and every time it feels like it's like,
Sure.
it has a harder time going back together. I
Yeah.
want you to know I made that comment 3 boyfriends ago.
Oh boy.
And that feels like peak bleak, you know? That feels like that feels like oof.
It's always shocking to like make a comment like, oh, couldn't get worse. And then a decade later, you're like, wow, if
Yeah.
you only knew what was coming up.
If I
Yeah.
could tell anything to my younger self, it will
Yeah.
be never say it can't get any worse.
Of course.
Never say it.
But
That's
just
like the one time
know.
I said to a friend of the podcast, Leslie Seiler, I said to her, I've had a bad couple of, and she said, years? And I said, well, I was going to say months, but now that you say it, yeah. That was a
Yeah.
decade ago. That was over a decade
Oh,
ago. So, on that
oh,
note, my new
wow.
single Dumpster Fire is streaming now.
I love
Give it a
that.
give it a stream over on Spotify there. I'm gonna be giving away some signed Dina Funko Pops. You just comment
Oof.
in TikTok. I'll put you in the draw. Um, if we get it to 100,000 streams, I'll give away five. If we get to
Oh,
200,000, I'll give away 10.
oh,
That's
I
all out of
love
my own
that.
pocket, baby.
Of course. Oh, I love this for you.
Yeah.
I also just want you to know, I don't know the name of it, but there is an art of, something breaks and you put it back together with like gold or whatever it is to make it more beautiful than it was before.
Yes. Yes.
So,
And I also had a transformative experience once at Christmas time in New York. No, excuse me. Was it Christmas time in Chicago? And there was a mosaic room. Like the entire room was a mosaic. And I was like, see,
oh,
look at that. That's broken glass that's been put together to make something beautiful. And I did have a transformative moment. And then things got really bad again. But you know what? That's not what we're here for. The full album, by the way, is coming in the fall, September. So stick around and keep an eye out for that.
what I'm hearing, time for another trip to Chicago.
Oh God, on that note, what you drinking over there?
Oh, I'm just doing a slush because it was honestly the closest thing to my house, and I left it to the last minute
Oh,
before this
listen,
record.
no shade. I'm guzzling Diet Cokes. I've had a very long day. I gotta stay awake and alert, so I'm just going for it. And I have some water, but the Diet Coke is doing what it needs to do.
Of
And
course.
on that note, so sorry. That was so rude. I've never burped on the show before, and I tried to stifle it, and it came out
I don't know why you're trying to dim the sparkle
of my burps.
of just you as a human. Let her be.
Let her rip.
Let yeah.
Let her rip. Well, listen, thank you for that. On that note, we're talking about Carolyn Matthews on this episode of the show. I don't know anything about this case, so I'm going to get myself and everyone else up to speed right now. In the summer of 2001, Carolyn Matthews was stabbed to death in her own home in South Australia. Police were quick to believe that Carolyn's husband, Kevin, was involved, even though he had an alibi for the time of the murder. But when police looked closer at Kevin, they discovered that he was having an affair and that his mistress had motive, opportunity, and no alibi. And while this case is officially solved, you're going to need to brace yourselves for all the twists and turns that you won't see coming. We've got multiple affairs, outrageous lies, a femme fatale, a straight white man's audacity, and more drama than an episode of Neighbours.
Is that an Australian soap opera reference right out the gate?
I got it.
It is. It is.
Well
So
played.
I do what I can. I do what I can. Oh, so disclaimer, this episode will contain very, very brief mentions of intimate partner violence and rape, so trigger warning for those who need it. Carolyn Wendy Tidswell was born July 25th, 1963, in Adelaide, South Australia. Her parents, Doug and Yvonne, also had four sons, including one before Carolyn and three after. In August 1978, Carolyn's uncle Robert had a party in honor of the 1 year anniversary of the death of Elvis Presley.
It's so specific.
It's so specific, but I mean, everybody needs a hobby. Robert was the manager of a Bow Repairs, which is a chain of tire shops in Australia. He invited several employees to the party, including a petrol pump attendant named Kevin Matthews. Carolyn was 14. Kevin was about 18. They immediately hit it off as they both shared a deep interest in the Surf Life Saving Club. Carolyn's family said she wasn't a strong swimmer, but she was determined to be part of that club. In 1981, Carolyn earned a bronze medal from the Surf Life Saving Association, which made her qualified to be a lifesaver in Australia. The award had previously been restricted to just men, so Carolyn was one of the first women to receive it.
Good for her.
Even more impressive, she was just 17 when she received it.
Wow. Good for
Yeah.
her.
So Carolyn and Kevin pretty much dated from the time that Carolyn was 14 until she was 18, when they broke up after it was discovered that Kevin had been cheating on her. Don't know the details, don't need to. Carolyn's friends described Kevin as arrogant, controlling, rude, and manipulative. They also said the way he spoke to Carolyn was, quote, appalling. And just to give you an idea as to what Kevin was like in a social setting, he was apparently well known for taking out his penis at the bar and dipping it in his own drink so no one would steal it when he went to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine. Um, but Carolyn and Kevin didn't remain apart long. They were soon engaged and then married in November 1984. They had three sons, Kenny in 1985, Shane in 1987, and Daniel in 1989. Kevin was promoted to tire fitter in 1982 and then slowly worked his way up the chain of command at Bow Repairs until he got the position of regional manager. In 1994, Carolyn became a partner at Bedspreads Plus, a home business company started by Carolyn's friend Judith Roberts in 1989. And for the most part, Carolyn and Kevin seemed to have a fairly normal life until they met Darren and Michelle Burgess. In February 1989, 18-year-old Darren Burgess met 15-year-old Michelle Goldup. Shortly after, Michelle was asked to leave school in year 10 due to poor attendance. I don't believe she ever went back. Darren's dream was to become a police officer, but despite passing the written and physical exams, Darren could not get past the interview because he was told he was too soft or too shy to become a cop. And I'm like, wouldn't it be nice to have some soft police? Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah.
Darren's father was the manager of a bow repairs in Richmond, so he encouraged Darren to apply for a trainee manager position at the Walkerville store in January 1990, since Darren had experience at another tire store as well as experience at the Bridgestone factory. Darren got the job, and the following year he was made assistant manager at a bow repairs in Enfield. That fall, Darren and Michelle applied for a loan to buy a block of land together, but they called it off after Michelle was caught cheating. Hmm. The couple
Interesting.
the couple broke up and Michelle started a relationship with the man that she had cheated with. But then 5 months later, Michelle's mother called Darren to say Michelle's new boyfriend had assaulted her and Michelle really wanted to see Darren. Michelle and Darren ended up getting back together, and then Michelle cheated a second time with someone else. You're going to
Wow.
notice that is a pattern.
Mm.
When Michelle became pregnant, she claimed the baby was Darren's, but Darren was skeptical. But because Darren is a solid guy, he ignored the biology of it and moved in with Michelle anyway. Their son was born in November 1992. Years later, Darren would outright say, the biology of it doesn't matter because no matter what, that is his son. And I just think that's really beautiful. So around this time, the Enfield store closed and Darren was offered the assistant manager position at the store in Mildura, which is about 400 kilometers or 247 miles east of Adelaide. Darren didn't really want to go, but he had a family to support, so he took the job anyway. They moved to Mildura in December 1992 with the plan of moving back to Adelaide as soon as possible. Darren and Michelle soon became engaged, and in typical Michelle fashion, she cheated. 10 months later, Darren was offered a transfer back to Adelaide, which he happily accepted. But within weeks of moving back and just 2 weeks before their wedding, Michelle cheated again. This time, Darren found out when he discovered letters in his car that Michelle had written to a morning show host named Denise Drysdale. In the letters, Michelle was asking for advice about what to do when you fall in love with the man you're cheating with. That's one way to find out. Uh,
Yeah.
Despite learning the truth, Darren decided to go ahead with the wedding in November 1993 as he felt his parents had put a lot of money into it and he didn't want to disappoint anyone.
Wow, what a great reason to get married.
I know. A month after the wedding, Darren and Michelle attended a Beau Repairs Christmas party where they met Kevin and Carolyn Matthews for the first time. And even though they had a lot in common, like adultery, Michelle didn't like Kevin at all. She said he was vulgar and he made constant graphic and sexual comments about his wife. Honestly, great reasons to not like someone. Maybe she also didn't like him because at the time Kevin was 33 and Michelle was just 20. So maybe there was something that she was like, ew, old man. Who knows? But we're going to put a pin in Kevin and Carolyn for a moment because we need to stay focused on the soap opera that is Darren and Michelle. In August 1994, just 9 months after their wedding, Michelle started cheating on Darren again. This time, it was with one of his coworkers who also happened to be named Darren.
Oh,
Uh,
no.
the affair lasted nearly 3 years. About 2 years in, cheater Darren decides he can no longer take the pressure of what he was doing to husband Darren, as he genuinely considered him to be a friend. Then stop sleeping with his wife, man.
Yeah.
So cheater Darren transferred to another store. Out of sight, out of mind. But of course, the affair didn't stop. It continued for another year until cheater Darren outright moved to Melbourne. In September 1996, husband Darren was made the manager at the Beau Repair in Ridge Haven. In 1997, Darren and Michelle had a daughter. But everything kind of started to weigh on Darren, like Michelle's constant cheating and the fact that she seemed to spend Darren's money as fast as he could earn it. Because I don't believe at any point in their relationship she had a job. I could be wrong, but I never heard of any job. So Darren started drinking heavily. He later said the only reason he did was just to numb the pain of living with Michelle. Yeah, yeah, put that on a Hallmark card. Woof. So in March 2000, Darren got caught driving under the influence, which in Australia they just simply call drink driving. I know. It's different. And I was like, that doesn't sound how we would say it. Doesn't matter. We're in Australia today. So Darren was honest about it. He told Kevin Matthews, his regional manager. Kevin then told head office, who gave Kevin the choice whether or not Darren was going to keep his job. Kevin chose to let Darren stay. Around this time, Michelle started texting with Kevin, which is surprising because up until then, Michelle really disliked him. In fact, when Darren and Michelle threw a Christmas party in December 1999, Michelle refused to invite Kevin and Carolyn. Now, 3 months later, Michelle's reaching out because she's concerned about Darren's drinking. However, the topic soon changed from his drinking and their texting started to increase. And according to friends, in August 2000, Kevin outright asked if Michelle would be his mistress. Bold. At the time, Michelle was 27, Kevin was 40. So in September 2000, Michelle threw Darren a birthday party and invited Kevin and Carolyn. Since Michelle had refused to invite the Matthews to a party less than a year prior, Darren found this sudden change of heart suspicious. And Darren had every right to be, not just because of Michelle's past behavior, but because on Darren's birthday, Michelle had sex with Kevin at Kevin's office.
Jesus.
Feeling suspicious, Darren went through Michelle's phone, where he found a lot of texts between Kevin and Michelle, including directions to the Beau Repair head office. Darren confronted Michelle, and she claimed the messages were fake and she'd put them there herself just to catch Darren snooping in her phone.
That's absurd.
Do I believe that someone could make a series of fake text messages on their own phone in 2025? Yes. Do I believe someone could pull that off with a cell phone 25 years ago? No, I do not.
No.
Especially when we know that Michelle was lying because she was absolutely having an affair with Kevin. But to try and hide the fact that she was sneaking off to meet Kevin, Michelle lied to Darren and claimed she got a job at their son's school. She said she was hired to canvass local businesses to find the school some sponsors. Not so surprisingly, the position required some travel and overnight stays at various hotels.
Mm,
Darren later said he suspected an affair almost immediately, mainly because he noticed that both Michelle and Kevin's cell phones were always turned off over lunch. And if he contacted both of them, they would both respond to him at the exact same time, once their phones were both turned on.
of course.
And Darren wasn't the only one who knew about the affair. Neighbor and friend of Michelle's, Cassandra, sent an anonymous letter to Kevin at the Beau Repair head office stating everyone knows about the affair, and if they didn't stop by Christmas, she would tell Carolyn. Cassandra said, quote, I didn't intend for it to be an ultimatum. I thought it would scare them both into realizing what they were doing, that there were two families at risk here. But Cassandra's threat didn't work, and by December, Michelle was so deep into the affair that she demanded Kevin leave his wife. She said if he didn't leave her by the middle of January, she would stop sleeping with him. And Kevin, like the fool that he was, agreed. But then on Christmas Eve, Carolyn's father, Doug, died suddenly following a long illness. Kevin then made the decision that he had to stay. But please do not mistake that to mean that Kevin actually cared, because while his wife was grieving her father and supporting her mother and making all the funeral arrangements, Kevin just, sat on his ass, drinking, doing nothing to help her in any way. And what's worse, he absolutely continued having an affair, including buying Michelle an expensive necklace for Christmas. When Darren asked Michelle where she got it, she said she bought it for herself, but it only cost like $10. Well, Darren found the exact same necklace at a jewelry store weeks later, and he said it was hundreds of dollars. Since the affair continued, Cassandra went through with her threat, but instead of telling Carolyn about the affair, Cassandra told Darren. Darren then confronted Kevin about it, and Kevin swore on his children's lives that he was not having an affair with Michelle. On January 7th, 2001, Carolyn called Darren to ask if he'd heard rumors that Kevin and Michelle were having an affair. Darren said yes, and he was pretty sure it was true. Carolyn wasn't convinced. She then asked if Michelle was okay. Darren asked, What are you talking about? And Carolyn said, Well, around Christmas time, Kevin said that Darren came home to find Michelle had been stabbed, so Kevin went to the hospital to make sure everyone was okay. Well, Darren said that never happened. She was never stabbed. She never went to the hospital. But that exact date, Michelle left the house claiming she was going to buy cigarettes, and she was gone well over an hour. When she got home, she claimed she'd just run into a friend and they'd been chatting. But Darren realized, well, obviously, she'd met up with Kevin. Carolyn then called Michelle and told her to stay away from her husband. Darren confronted Michelle about the affair. She denied it, then suggested that the two of them should have a weekend getaway. So they left the kids with Michelle's mother and went to a hotel. But instead of working on their relationship, Michelle spent most of the time locked in the bathroom texting Kevin. She also used Darren's phone to send a message to Carolyn telling her to never contact either of them again. Michelle then deleted that message, so Darren had no idea that message had ever been sent. Soon after this attempted weekend trip, Darren received the phone bill. It was 28 pages long and $1,200, which would be
Whoa.
closer to 2,100 in 2025. The entire thing was just page after page of phone calls and texts from Michelle's phone to Kevin, along with a previous charge of $1,600, which had been paid. When asked how that amount had been paid, Michelle said, well, the school paid the bill because this was all just part of her job. but we know the job isn't real. So where else are you getting money? Most likely, Kevin. But I don't know how Kevin could afford it because he was struggling financially. In February 2001, Carolyn called a friend to say Kevin had drained their accounts and maxed their credit cards. It turns out Kevin was using their mortgage to pay off his credit card spending. So in July 2000, the Matthews family were about 120 some thousand dollars in debt, and the
Ooh.
next year it increased to 150,000. But Kevin wasn't worried. Despite the debt, in September 2000, he took out a loan to buy an $18,000 boat as a gift to himself for his birthday next month. Insane.
How's he even getting the loan?
I don't
Anyway,
I don't know. I don't know. I also my immediate thought is, well, what Carolyn get for her birthday?
yeah.
You got a damn boat for crying out loud. Anyway, another friend of Michelle's approached Darren about the affair, so he confronted both Michelle and Kevin again together. Again, they denied it. Michelle told Darren if he's going to be like this, he needs to leave. So he did. He later said he regrets not keeping the kids and telling Michelle she's the one that needs to go. Darren moved in with his parents and started looking for a new job because he could not stand the idea of Kevin being his boss. But a month later, Michelle tried to lure Darren back by telling him she had cervical cancer and she only had 6 to 12 months to live.
Oh boy.
She, of course, did not have cancer, but because Darren was already on to her games, he just refused to go back. Kevin and Carolyn wanted to sit down with Darren and Michelle and talk about these rumors once and for all. I don't know why they keep calling them rumors when we all know it was a full blown affair. Uh, from December 2000 to July 2001, the staff at the Hampstead Hotel said that Kevin and Michelle would have lunch there 3 to 4 times every single week. They rarely ordered food. They usually just got 8 scotch and colas each. 8 drinks at lunch feels like a lot. I don't think I could do it.
Well,
Um,
especially with no food.
right? Um, and while they were there, they would just openly fondle each other to the point where the staff and other patrons were very uncomfortable. So the jig is up. We all know. But Kevin and Michelle continued to deny it, and the couples wanted to sit down face to face to talk about it. Michelle refused. And at this point, Darren was pretty much out of the relationship already. He knew Michelle was cheating. She refused to admit it. So he just decided this is it. He's officially done. And while Michelle tried to lure him back, it didn't work. She did still allow him to have regular visits with his kids through an informal custody arrangement. But once Darren started seeing a woman named Kathy, Michelle refused him access to the kids, and Darren had to go through the court to get an official arrangement, which ended up being the exact arrangement he already had. So it was just wasted money because Michelle is too much. In late March, when Darren dropped the kids off after a visit, Michelle stole Darren's phone and locked herself inside the house. A few minutes later, she gave Darren the phone back and let him know she had contacted Kathy. So she steals his phone just to get his new girlfriend's number. Sure enough, Michelle had told Kathy that she and Darren had sex whenever he dropped the kids off. Absolutely untrue. But of course, Michelle doesn't care. She doesn't want Darren moving on. She's going to sabotage him every chance she gets. The next day, Michelle called Kathy, said that she was a slut, a whore, and a troll. Kathy said, if you're gonna call me abusive names, at least get it right. It's trollop, not troll. I don't live under a bridge. And she hung up on her. And to that I say, kudos to Kathy. This is 100% Mike Wazowski energy, and I am here for it. I am, of course, referring to the scene in Monsters, Inc. when Randall is insulting Mike, and he says, if you're going to threaten me, do it properly. Anyway, My head is always a Disney movie. So a week later, Kathy and Darren are driving home. Michelle calls Darren and she is screaming. She's saying she's going to kill him. She's going to kill Kathy. She's going to kill them both. All of this. Darren's like, okay. And he hangs up. So then Michelle texts and says, well, please call me. Please call me. I promise no more fighting. She then sent another text that said, I know where she lives. It's a promise, not a threat. So just really hot and cold. Darren and Kathy went to the police station to file a restraining order against Michelle, but the police just laughed at them at the thought of getting a restraining order against a woman, I guess. Around this time, an anonymous woman reported Darren to Family and Community Services, claiming he was drink driving with his children in the car and that he called their mother horrific names in front of the children. The problems were listed in Darren's file as notifier concern, meaning the person who took the call didn't believe a word of it. Um, it is believed that the anonymous caller was Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
In June 2001, Kevin's overspending finally caught up with him. It turns out he was also abusing his company credit card, uh, and also not doing his job. As regional manager, part of Kevin's job was to visit the branches and speak with employees. He wasn't doing that at all. When employees would call him with a problem, he was nowhere to be found. The company chose to demote Kevin from regional manager down to branch manager, which I think was more than generous. 5 days after starting his new position, Kevin realized his company credit card hadn't been canceled yet. So he charged $60 worth of flowers and chocolate and sent it to Michelle's house. But they're not having an affair.
Right.
So it's nice to see that the company gave Kevin a second chance, but he shit on it. I guess he's just an all around shitty guy who respects no one. In early 2001, Michelle became friendly with a woman named Kathy Cowald, not to be confused with Darren's new girlfriend, Kathy. The other Kathy was the mother of a kid in Michelle's son's class. So Michelle and Kathy got to know each other while waiting at school pickup every day. Soon, Michelle's openly bragging about her affair and claiming Carolyn and Darren were harassing her to the point that Michelle had to file a police report. That, of course, was a lie. There was no report filed because there was no harassment. Since Michelle and Darren were filing for divorce, legally, Michelle had to sell the house. It sold in the spring of 2001, and Michelle was angry at Carolyn for it. What Carolyn did to cause Michelle's divorce, I'll never know. But Michelle was complaining about Carolyn to her new friend, Kathy. Michelle said she wants Carolyn gone because she needs to save Kevin from his marriage. So Michelle is talking about how much she hates Carolyn when out of nowhere she asks Kathy if she knows anyone who could get rid of her. Maybe someone who could make it look like a car accident. So it's already insane to me to hire a hitman to begin with, but to openly ask someone you barely know if they might know a hitman is over the top. Kathy later said she didn't go to the police about it because she didn't think Michelle was serious. And that excuse seemed almost reasonable until the day that Kathy offered to help. Kathy said her brother David Key recently got out of prison, so he might know a guy. That's also making some deep assumptions, Kathy. David Key had an abusive childhood, an alcoholic father, and an overall unstable home life. Between 1991 and 1993, David and his girlfriend had 3 children. Keeping in mind, at that time, David was between the ages of 17 and 19. So I can't imagine how that went. In 1993, he was convicted of armed robbery and sentenced to 6 years. After his release, he breached parole 3 times, so he returned to prison twice for 2 separate 3-month terms. He was finally released April 20th, 2001. He went to stay with his mother in Smithfield, and days later, he met a woman named Debbie, a mother of 5. 2 weeks later, David and Debbie were living together. I don't know where the children were. I can only assume
Hmm.
with her. Could go either way. When his sister Kathy asked David about the murder for hire, he said yes, and then immediately asked for more information. He said he'd been looking for work, although he was just looking to maybe mow some lawns or find a laboring job. I guess murder for hire it is. Michelle,
Jesus.
right? That feels like a real leap.
Yeah.
Michelle gave Kathy a piece of paper which had a photo of Carolyn Matthews taped to it, along with some handwritten information, including Carolyn's name, birthday, home address, work address, the times she went to work and arrived home, her cell phone, home, and work numbers. The information had been written by Kevin, because who knows her better than her husband? Kathy took the paper, which police later referred to as a murder contract, and gave it to David. Days later, Michelle gave Kathy a second murder contract, but this time it was for Darren, and the information had been handwritten by Michelle. She said she wanted both murders to occur within days of each other, and they should both look like accidents. In early June, David eventually met with Michelle himself at the school. He agreed to help, saying he knew a guy and that he wanted $50,000 for the job, $25,000 for each murder. After meeting Michelle the first time, she started calling David up to 5 times a day for 20 minutes at a time. And honestly, David found it annoying. Or at least he did until the end of June when David and Michelle started sleeping together.
This woman is diabolical. It's like she can't have a conversation with a man and not sleep with him. And that's not me slut shaming. I just think there's something pathological going on with her. I mean, it's
Oh,
wild.
it's just nonstop. I also love that you're standing at a school talking murder. It just feels extreme. Um, well, when David's girlfriend Debbie found out about the murder contracts because David left them lying around in her house, Debbie kicked him out. But David was openly showing these contracts to everyone. I don't know if he thought he was getting like street cred or something. I'm not really sure. But on July 3rd, 2001, Kevin withdrew $1,500 from his mortgage account. Then a few days later, Michelle gave David $1,500. So it seems like while he wasn't part of the hiring process, Kevin was absolutely involved in this scheme. When the sale of Michelle's house was final, she received a check for $33,000 in the divorce settlement. Because Darren had a job and only had part-time custody of the kids, he only received $1,800. Which brings us to the fateful day of July 12th, 2001. Around 11 a.m., Michelle called her mother, Angela, to ask if she could watch the kids while Michelle did some Christmas shopping. I remind you, I said this was July. So insane.
Yeah.
Um, Angela agreed. Then Michelle, David, and Michelle's two children, who were 8 and 4 at the time, went to the bank where Michelle deposited her settlement check. Security cameras show the four of them entering the building at 12:34 and leaving at 1. Michelle and David drove to Angela's house where they dropped off the children around 1:30. Michelle and David then drove around drinking, which feels like a real choice. David later said that he also did a lot of drugs that afternoon, including speed, ecstasy, and smoking at least 4 or 5 joints.
Jesus.
Kevin called Michelle 4 times between 2:29 and 3:40, but those weren't the only calls logged between them that day because between 6:30 a.m. and 12:23 p.m., Michelle and Kevin called each other 14 times. So clearly, something was going down. At 5 p.m., Michelle and David showed up at the Bow Repair in Port Adelaide, where Kevin was manager. They left at 5:25. David said at this point, Michelle started screaming at him, saying she wanted Carolyn dead now, but David said he wasn't ready. His plan was to tie Carolyn up in her vehicle, leave it on the side of the road, and cut the brakes to make it look like an accident. Bud, If she's tied up, it's
Oh.
not gonna look like an accident. But what do I know? I'm not a hired killer. David told Michelle he had a plan. And then she started berating him and saying he was soft and his previous crimes were nothing. He needed to do something big like murder to prove that he's a real man. Otherwise, he's nothing but a sook, which apparently is Aussie slang for like weak or crybaby. Sook? I bet it's more sook. Like you're a suck? I don't know.
That sounds
Um,
right.
Michelle said that if David didn't kill Carolyn Matthews on this exact day, Michelle was going to end their relationship and go to the police and have him charged with rape.
Oh my God.
So many things to unpack. Falsely charging a man with rape is vile and an absolute slap in the face to actual assault survivors. But to use it as leverage to get him to commit a murder is insane, especially when David had the murder contracts and could easily go to the police with it. But David didn't really seem to think about that. Um, According to the forensic psychologist who later evaluated David, he was found to have low to average intelligence and was virtually illiterate. David was vulnerable to stress, inclined to hostility and anger, and suffered from amphetamine dependence and chronic PTSD. The psychologist officially diagnosed David with antisocial personality disorder and borderline personality disorder.
Interesting.
So when Michelle pushed about it, David finally agreed, and they drove to the Matthews house on Nambucca Avenue in the West Lakes Shore area of Adelaide. They approached the house at around 5:45 p.m., just as Carolyn was coming outside. David ran up, showed Carolyn the murder contract, and asked if that was her. Carolyn said yes. Michelle comes out of nowhere, lunges forward, punches Carolyn in the face, causing her to stumble back through the screen door. They dragged Carolyn into the kitchen, where Michelle grabbed an 8-inch knife from a drawer and told David to stab Carolyn. David said no. He said, if you want it done, you do it. Michelle then said David needed to do it to prove that he loved her.
Ugh.
So David started stabbing Carolyn Matthews multiple times.
Good God.
Carolyn grabbed a frying pan off the stove to act as a shield, which caused the knife to bend. David later said, quote, I can't remember how many times I stabbed her or exactly what happened. I just went bloody ballistic. I'd already stabbed her 5 or 6 times before she went down. When Carolyn was motionless on the floor, David yelled at Michelle to leave. He then grabbed a towel, wiped blood from his face and hands, grabbed the frying pan, the murder weapon, and 2 other knives that he thought Michelle had touched. David left the house, grabbed a sock from the clothesline in the yard, wiped down the knives and the frying pan, tossed the knives in a nearby bush, dropped the frying pan on the ground, and left the scene with only the sock and the towel. When he got to the car, David said Michelle was laughing. They left the scene and headed to Grange Beach, where Michelle called Kevin's cell at 5:59 p.m. from a phone box known in North America as like a payphone or a phone booth. Uh, where was Kevin when all this was going on? Well, after leaving work, Kevin picked up his 3 sons at home at 5:40 p.m. The boys were 16, 13, and 12 at the time. Kevin drove the boys to the Leg Trap Hotel, where he bought a few cans of scotch and cola, and then took the boys to a video store. The boys went inside to pick a movie, but Kevin stayed in the car, which his oldest said was very unusual because Kevin liked picking out movies almost as much as the boys did. So Kevin stays in the car, the boys go inside the store. The computer at the video store shows the kids checked out movies at 5:58 p.m. And while their choices don't matter as far as this case goes, for the sake of our nostalgic hearts, they rented Charlie's Angels, The X-Men, and Disney's The Kid.
Thank you.
I knew you'd want to know. At 5:59, Kevin's cell received a 3-second call from a public phone box. Michelle's mother, Angela, called Michelle at 6, frustrated that the kids hadn't been picked up yet. It was Thursday, and apparently Angela went shopping at Tea Tree Plaza every Thursday night. Angela tried calling Michelle again at 6:37. Still no answer. Michelle finally arrived to get the kids around 7 p.m. David said after they picked up the kids, they went back to Michelle's place where they put all of their clothes in a washing machine and then cleaned out the car with disinfectant. After receiving that 3-second call from Michelle, Kevin drove the kids home, arriving at 6:05 p.m. They noticed the recycling bin was knocked over and there was a frying pan on the lawn. The kids didn't think anything of it. They just assumed maybe their parents had been arguing and their mother had spat the dummy, which is an Aussie expression basically meaning throw a fit, like how a baby or toddler might spit out its pacifier.
Mm,
The joke is that came across in my research, that specific phrase, and I laughed because my husband's aunt, who lived in Australia for decades, she told me about spat the dummy
mm.
ages ago, and it always stuck with me because I was like, I'd never heard of that, and then it came up organically. I love it. So they get home. Kevin lags behind and allows the three children to enter the house first. So, if we are to believe that Kevin knew what happened to Carolyn while they were gone, and all evidence points to the fact that he absolutely did know, it is incomprehensible to me that he would knowingly and willingly let his children see what was inside that house.
Horrific.
Kenny, who was just 16, was the first to walk into the kitchen where he found his mother lying in a pool of blood. Kevin ran into the room and started screaming and then asked Kenny to help him perform CPR. One of the kids called the police, who arrived at 6:15. An ambulance arrived 3 minutes later. Kevin told them he had continued CPR the whole time that they'd been home. When he stepped back to let the professionals handle it, Kevin grabbed one of those cans of scotch and cola and downed it. The first responders just assumed he was in shock. Sadly, Carolyn was long dead before help ever arrived. Carolyn Matthews was described as loving, caring, and hardworking. She was dedicated to her family and to her community and was a well-respected coach at the Semaphore Surf Life Saving Club, where she remains an honorary member to this day.
Mm.
Carolyn was just 37 at the time of her death. According to the autopsy, Carolyn suffered 41 injuries during that attack. There was a wound to her cheek, an abrasion to her forehead, many defensive wounds on her forearms and fingers. She suffered 6 stab wounds to the chest that penetrated both lungs as well as her heart. Time of death was estimated to be around 5:45. The official cause of death was multiple stab wounds to the chest. When police interviewed Kevin, they asked how his marriage was. Kevin said, "Things are good." They asked if he'd ever had an affair. Kevin said, "No, I haven't, but I've been accused." When they pushed for more details, Kevin said that 6 months prior, Darren Burgess, a manager at one of his stores, accused him of sleeping with Darren's wife, Michelle, who was a model. To be clear, no, she wasn't. This is like
Jesus.
when Cody Brown was telling everyone that Robin was a Diesel Jeans model. And I'm just
That's
like,
right.
stand down. Ah. So Kevin said Carolyn knew about the affair accusation, but she knew the truth. He claimed the four of them were all just really good friends, and then out of nowhere, Darren turned on all of them. When police spoke to Darren, he easily just handed over the phone bills, which showed hundreds and hundreds of phone calls and texts between Michelle and Kevin. So right away, police are suspicious of Kevin and Michelle. They then received an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers. Turns out it was a friend of David Keyes who said, David's been hired as a hitman. He's been bragging about how much money he's going to make and showing everyone these murder contracts. So police quietly start to watch Michelle and David. They found on July 18th, 6 days after the murder, Michelle withdrew $16,000 from her divorce settlement and bought David an $11,000 car from a used car lot. Michelle then had a brief meeting with Kevin before police found her parked on a random street having sex in the new car with David.
Jesus.
You own a house. I mean, do what you want to do, but
It's starting to paint a picture for me, though. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. So that night, David and Michelle went to Michelle's son's soccer game where David publicly threatened Darren. The next day, Michelle used $9,000 from her settlement money to pay off what she owed on her current car, then withdrew $7,000, went back to that same car lot, and bought a second car. And since David's new car was under Michelle's name, that meant she now owns three cars,
That's
which
wild.
is insane. And unnecessary. You know what else is unnecessary? Kevin being a fucking creep at a gathering following his wife's funeral, a funeral that was paid for by his recently widowed mother-in-law, I might
Ugh.
add. Kevin is talking to a friend of his. This friend has a 16-year-old daughter. Kevin says to the man, "Come on, are you gonna let her sit on my lap now? Today of all days, I've just buried my wife." So, yeah,
Jesus.
Kevin was using the dead wife card to guilt a friend into violating their child's boundaries.
Disgusting.
It's vile. And yeah, the daughter did have to sit on his lap,
Oh,
which is, stop it. A week later, Kevin had a phone call with Michelle, and it is clear at that point that they both realized that the police were monitoring Kevin's phone because during the call, they denied the affair and they claimed they're just good friends. None of us believe that, but they're going to keep trying. Michelle said, "If you and I were having an affair, then why were Carolyn and I friends?" Oh, I don't know, Michelle. Probably the same way that Raquel was friends with Ariana, even though she was sleeping with Tom Sandoval behind her back. Did I get that right?
nailed it.
Nice. Thank God. I learned it from you.
Oh, I'm so
Oh,
proud.
yeah. It was genuinely the first thing that came in my mind. I
It's
was like, just because
perfect.
you're friends doesn't mean you're not fucking her man.
Yeah, doesn't prove anything.
Oh, correct. Oh, to be clear, Michelle and Carolyn weren't friends at all. It was just Michelle's attempt at destroying her motive, which absolutely was not working. Michelle then called David, who it turns out had just been pulled over by police for speeding. Turns out David was arrested on an outstanding warrant, which was issued July 9th, because David had failed to contact his parole officer. During his arrest, police saw that Michelle was calling, and because they knew the case, they let him answer the phone and talk to her during his arrest, which I kind of love. Police bring David to the station, and they told him they found a bloody boot print at the scene of Carolyn Matthews' murder. So they wanted to compare his boots to the prints that they found. They discovered the boots had dried blood on one of the eyelets as well as in some of the cracks on the sole of the boot. So samples were taken and sent to be tested. Inside David's wallet, they found the murder contract for Darren. They asked, "What about the murder contract for Carolyn?" And David said he destroyed it. How did he destroy it? There are so many ways you can destroy a piece of paper. He ripped it up, put it in a sandwich, and ate it.
Don't.
You absolutely heard me correctly. He
No.
ate a piece of paper because, according to him, he believed police couldn't prove the paper ever existed if they couldn't find it.
You can burn paper. Paper burns. There's so many other things. Get it really wet. If you get it
Yeah.
really, really wet, it'll fall apart. You can make
Yep.
mulch. You can put it in your garden. There's
Yep.
so many avenues I personally would explore before eating
Mhm.
paper.
I also
Ugh.
want to remind you there was also a photo taped to it that they'd like cut out of a family photo. So he also ate a photo.
Did he eat the tape?
Oh yeah, he ate all of it. He said
Stop.
he ate the whole thing.
This is
He
ridiculous.
also then turned around and went, "Wasn't that bad?"
No, no. Oh
Mhm.
my God. It's just that we've done so many episodes of this show, and it's
Yeah.
always rare to be unraveled by something. This has unraveled me. This is a
Yeah.
level of like, again, like you can burn paper. Like I
Hmm.
don't know what to say. Like you can burn it into nothing. Like it
Yeah.
disappears.
Well, I guess stomach acid does the same thing. Yeah,
This
well,
is
look,
wild.
it was a choice. I mean, I almost follow the logic of he needs to get rid of it. Um, I just struggle with the idea of eating paper. I'm not judging, to each their own with whatever you're going to put in your own mouth, but that was a real choice.
But
Um,
why? Okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm jumping ahead, but very quickly, explain to me. It's so imperative I get rid of this murder contract. I
yeah,
have to eat it with my mouth hole. But for
yeah.
some reason, he's like, but this other one, Darren's murder contract, that's okay to leave in my wallet. You didn't want to eat that one too, bud? You didn't want to
I
get rid of the other evidence of murder?
I I think if Darren had died, he would have gotten rid of it. But I think because he was safe, there was no part of him that thought that was it was anything. It's insane. It's I just again, I
It's
told you there's going to be some stuff you don't see coming.
not in a million years.
Yeah. Yeah, well,
Paper sandwich was not on my bingo card.
yeah. Um so police got a search warrant for Michelle's place. They mentioned the blood found on David's boots, and Michelle said, "Oh, well, that's my blood." Which, get out. She said she'd been so sick lately, she'd been coughing up blood, so that just must have been it. On the soles of his boots. Nowhere else in that house, just on that pair of boots, huh? I'm shocked at this point that she thinks police are going to buy what she's trying to sell.
Yeah.
So during the search, police found Michelle's diary in which she had written an acrostic poem about Kevin. An acrostic is when you use a word to describe a person or thing using each letter of their name. So in the case of Kevin, Kevin, Michelle wrote kind, exciting, vigorous, intelligent, naughty. Barf. Um, I can't believe that acrostic poetry was not on my previous lists of potential hobbies. I
I
actually
mean, I think
think
that's always on the table.
I think I would nail it if I'm being honest. Um, So it seems like when they did a search of the house, they may have planted some sort of listening device because days later they heard Michelle having a conversation about David with her new boyfriend, Jason Colenso. Yeah, during all of this, Michelle managed to reel in yet another man. It turns out Jason was a friend of David's, and David, when he got arrested, called Jason and asked him to take care of Michelle. He's taking care of her all right. Oh, not the way he intended. So during this
No.
recorded conversation, Michelle and Jason talked about whether a possible police informant had ratted them out. The truth is, of course, they got a tip from Crime Stoppers, which actually came from a friend of David's. Um, and then Michelle says, quote, "The thing that happened that night didn't happen as it went to plan. I pushed Dave, and that's why Dave done it himself with some help." On July 30th, the blood on David's boots came back as a match to Carolyn Matthews. David Key was officially charged with the murder of Carolyn, and because police knew Michelle met with Kevin at Bow Repairs less than an hour before the murder, had lied to police about her relationship with Kevin, and because her handwriting was verified as being on Darren's murder contract, Michelle was arrested 5 days after the blood report came back. During her interview, Michelle admitted, yes, she was at Bow Repairs that day at 5, but she was there with her boyfriend Jason. She wasn't there with David. There are no pictures of David released publicly because there's like an Australian law that prevents it about people convicted of murder or something along those lines.
Right.
But I've seen a courtroom sketch of him, and he looks absolutely nothing like Jason.
Mm.
Multiple witnesses at the tire shop described the man who showed up with Michelle, and it was clearly David, not Jason. But Michelle said she needed new tires, and her friend Kevin offered to help her. So Jason drove her to the shop. She said she had no idea where David was at the time. Michelle said she only spoke to Kevin about tires, but there were 19 calls between them that day, starting with a 21-minute call at 6:30 a.m. All of that just for tires? I doubt it. Michelle said they were absolutely not having an affair. They were just friends, not just her and Kevin, but also Darren and Carolyn. Just like a sweet little set of couple friends. Michelle said, yeah, she and Kevin texted a lot and called each other a lot. But guess what? So did Darren and Carolyn. I'd say show us the receipts, but there aren't any. And she knows that, which is why she claimed Darren sometimes would text or call his best friend Kevin using Michelle's phone. So not all of those calls or texts were her.
Mm.
Some of them were Darren, which fuck right off.
Yeah.
My God, she's just exhausting. Um, because, of course, Darren's going to reach out to Kevin because they were such good friends. And when the rumor of the affair started going around, the two couples wanted to sit down and talk about it, but Michelle said Darren refused. Isn't it funny? Because earlier this story was told and it was Michelle that refused to have the sit down. And now
Hmm.
suddenly it's Darren. Uh, Michelle again pushed the idea that there was absolutely no affair. It was all Darren making up lies. And for some reason, he had absolutely turned on this two couple friendship that they had going. Following the interview, Michelle was officially charged with Carolyn's murder. Her first court appearance was scheduled for August 6th. Police advised Kevin not to attend, but he did. And he brought Michelle's boyfriend, Jason Colenso. Uh, both sat trying to get Michelle's attention. Um, it was very clear that neither of those men realized that they were both sleeping with her.
Oh my God.
Because yeah, Kevin had no idea that she was sleeping with Jason. Um, but Kevin's attempts at getting Michelle's attention were by far the most insane. He had this hat, almost like a bucket hat, but a very like wide rimmed kind of hat. Um, and he would hold it up every once in a while when she was looking, but just show her the hat and then put it away. Well, when he left the courthouse wearing that hat, you could see that he used a black marker to write the word forever on the inside of the hat. But because the hat was white, you could clearly see the letters through the back of the hat. What a fucking idiot. But also, your wife was murdered 25 days ago, and you're already saying forever to the woman that's linked to her murder? So much for we absolutely weren't having an affair. What a dumbass. And honestly, maybe it's for the best that they were so obvious about their motive because it made them easier to catch. Thankfully, Michelle was denied bail. The next day, Michelle's friend and David's sister, Kathy Cowald, went to the police to tell them what she knew. She didn't go because it was the right thing to do. She went because her friends told her it would look better for her if she went to the police before they came looking for her. She told them about the murder contracts and how she was the one to connect her brother David with Michelle. I am shocked she was never charged with anything, especially given that she knew about the crime in advance and said nothing.
Yeah.
I have to believe she made some sort of a deal. Maybe she testified against them and got no charges because of it. I don't know. But while Michelle's in prison, Kevin at least was smart enough to know he can't outright visit her because that's not a good look. So, like using a black marker on a white hat, I mean, that's way too obvious. What a fucking idiot. I will post photos of that hat. It's insane. So, instead, Jason would go visit And Kevin would just give Jason messages to give to Michelle. Because at this point, Kevin still did not know that Michelle was also sleeping with Jason. He thought that it was good to pretend Jason was her boyfriend in public, so then people would know there wasn't an affair.
This is wild.
So Kevin, Jason, and David all still believed they were Michelle's one and only. I don't know how she was pulling that off. The messages that Kevin gave to Jason were him saying he loves her, he's thinking about her, and then he started sending like really pouty messages about how it's unfair that Michelle's only contacting Jason. She's not outright contacting Kevin. Well, yeah, that's the plan, bud. She's linked to your wife's murder, dumbass. This man is infuriatingly stupid. And normally I would not say that publicly, but this is a shitty person, so I'm okay with also calling him an idiot.
Of course.
On August 21st, Jason went to Beau Repair where Michelle's ex Darren was working and threatened him and then said, if this makes it to court, you won't. So that night, Jason gets arrested on charges of attempting to prevent a person from attending court as a witness. Jason told police he was simply taking care of Michelle as his friend David had asked him to. Jason Colenso was eventually convicted and sentenced to 15 months in jail. He was released after 9. Kevin then finally realized Michelle is sleeping with other men, and he was enraged. He sent her a letter, but he wanted to hide who he was talking about, so he used code words. For
No.
example, anytime he mentioned David, he used the word candy. When he mentioned Jason, he used the letters SAJ. I guess he ran out of words. It's Jace backwards.
Oh my
So,
God.
yeah, just an idiot. And when he was talking about Kevin and Michelle, he used Hansel and Gretel. I don't have the heart to tell him Hansel and Gretel were siblings, not lovers, but we are where we are. In this letter, Kevin said he was angry. He said he trusted her. He devoted his life to her, but she used him. He then said he had given letters to his solicitor, along with instructions that those letters would be mailed if Kevin ever went missing, got hurt, or if his children were harmed in any way. And that, dear people, is the first time in all of this that Kevin showed any concern for his sons.
Yeah.
On September 7th, Kevin was arrested for the murder of his wife. Since he was still angry with Michelle, he started sending letters to other women he knew, asking them out. He told one woman in particular, and this is a direct quote from the letter, when I get out, you can come to my place, and we can go and visit Carolyn's grave and read some poetry and come back to my place and perhaps have a few drinks. It's
I've had a lot of
insane.
pickup lines, a lot of pickup lines in my day.
Yeah.
Thank God. Just like we said earlier, just when you used to think, oh, it couldn't get any worse. I guess I've never had a man say to me, hey, want to visit my recently dead ex-wife's, or well, not even ex, my recently dead wife's grave. Then we can go back to my place and have a few drinks. That's a new one.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, oh God. And then it gets worse because then he started sending letters to the girls from the Semaphore Surf Life Saving Club that he was part of, the same one where Carolyn was a coach. Kevin asked these girls, who were in their teens and early 20s, to visit him and bring pictures of themselves in bathing suits. Kevin was 40.
Gross.
Yeah. Thinking he had a positive public image, Kevin sent letters to the Advertiser newspaper telling them that he had requested to visit his wife's gravesite for their anniversary, but he was denied.
Oh,
The prison said that Kevin's request did not fit the criteria for compassionate leave. And they're right. You're in prison awaiting trial for your wife's murder. They aren't going to let you out to see her grave. My God. Clearly,
no.
he's just looking for sympathy and trying to appear like a loving, grief stricken husband. What he really was was a coward because while he was in prison in desperate need of money to pay for a lawyer, he sold his house without a single thought of where his children might go. He then kept the money from the sale for himself, leaving his children with nothing. The three boys were sent to live with Kevin's mother. Um, and then, following the sale of the house, Michelle received a $2,000 check. 3 days later, Kevin sent a love letter telling her the check was from him and she could send it as she pleased. I guess he got over her sleeping with other men, but I like that you thought the woman in prison needed $2,000 more than your children might.
Oh, it's so gross.
The letter that he sent was 22 pages long. It included things like, quote, "This is all circumstantial and their motive is over an alleged affair." It's so cute, he says alleged in the same letter that he tells her, quote, "I love you very much, Michelle Elizabeth Burgess. So much I'm willing to sacrifice myself for you." There was also a poem about their future wedding called I Do, and the outside of the envelope was covered in tiny little hand-drawn hearts. Again, they are the absolute fucking worst at hiding this affair.
Yeah.
I also realized I forgot to put something in. So David Key, he is still in prison awaiting trial. Finally learns that Michelle is in a relationship with Kevin and Jason. So he decides, yeah, he's going to tell the police what he knows. Um, but he also had gone around telling people all the evidence against him. Well, he had a way to make it so that the evidence would like be worthless. Well, the main evidence against him are those boots. You know how he was going to make it so that they were like, oh, the boots aren't his, even though he was wearing those boots? He was going to make a receipt and tell them that a week after the murder, he bought the boots at a garage sale.
I thought you were going to tell me he planned to eat them.
Amazing. Yeah, what a stew. Yeah, I could see that. I just feel like what garage sale in the history of garage sales has ever given a receipt? Like that's not how
They
garage
already
sales
found the blood on the
work.
boots, man. This doesn't like
Yeah. Oh, and
to suggest
he
that he
thought
thought then that that proved they were some
mhm,
get out of here.
yeah, he also thought if they were going to make him walk, he was going to just do a different walk to prove like those footprints weren't his. And I'm like, I would have paid money to watch him do a fake walk because that would have been uh, unlike a paper sandwich, delicious. Oh
Yeah, he was
God.
just gonna Kaiser Sose as well his way out of
Yeah.
this. I understand.
Yeah, 100%. So he finds out, I mean, thankfully he didn't have to fake a receipt. Um, but he finds out that Michelle is sleeping with other people and decides, forget this. I'm going to tell the police. She was there. She was the one that committed the murder, not me. Um, but then he found out that there were multiple inmates who were willing to come forward to say that David had outright bragged about the crime to them and like described it in very, very great detail. Not surprisingly, David chose to take a deal, agreeing to testify against Michelle and Kevin at their trials. As part of the deal, David pleaded guilty to murder in July 2003 and was sentenced to 20 years before any possible parole. Kevin and Michelle both filed to have separate trials, but were denied. Their trial started in August 2003. The prosecution presented the idea that David Key was hired by Michelle and Kevin to murder Carolyn so that Michelle and Kevin could be together. There was also the added motive that Kevin was financially struggling at the time, and he had conveniently taken out a $100,000 life insurance policy on Carolyn before her death. The
Hmm.
policy would be void if he was convicted. The only people to testify for the defense were Michelle's parents, who both said Michelle picked up the kids at 6:30 on the day of the murder. Because saying that, they believed, meant they wouldn't have had enough time to kill Carolyn at 5:45, drive 20 kilometers or 12 miles to the parents' house and get the kids by 6:30. For one thing, that's plenty of time. For two, her parents initially told police that Michelle picked the kids up at 7. Now they're saying, "Oh no, it was absolutely 6:30." This feels like perjury,
Mm-hmm.
allegedly. Throughout the trial, Kevin and Michelle would send each other messages through a radio show. The Prison Show, which first launched in 1984, is a request dedication show that operates specifically for prisoners and their families. Kevin and Michelle would call in with messages for each other using either just their middle names or just their first names for the sake of anonymity. Some of the messages, they would be like, "Good luck," or "Keep your chin up," or "I love you with all my heart," or "You are my destiny," which is foolish because we all know the only way to someone's heart is to call them your density. Thank you very much. Back to the Future.
Of course.
Um, so the jury deliberated for 17 hours. In October 2003, both Kevin Matthews and Michelle Burgess were found guilty. They were both given mandatory life sentences, which is 30 years before being eligible for parole. After the verdict, Kevin wrote a letter to Michelle's ex-husband, Darren, taking zero accountability for what he had done and instead blaming Darren for Carolyn's death. A few quotes from the letter for you. "I hope you're proud of yourself. You and your northern suburb feral friends caused the death of Carolyn by putting your noses where it was not wanted. You set off a chain of events that has seen my children lose their mother. Your jealousy was the seed planted that resulted in the death of my wife." The letter also included Kevin's poor attempt at claiming he absolutely loved prison, like he was having the best time. "I'm quite happy where I am. No responsibilities, no pain, plenty of laughs." I don't believe anyone has ever described prison like that in the history of prison.
I've
Um,
I've never heard anyone say
yeah,
plenty of laughs. I'll say that
nope,
much.
nope. Then he included, and this is angry, "I love it here, so fuck you." Again, never heard anyone say that. And then finally, in that letter, Kevin really kept sticking to that story that there was no affair. And Darren simply mistook Kevin and Michelle's close friendship as something more than it was. But then he did a 180 and he signed the letter, quote, "Give my future stepchildren a big sloppy kiss from me. Regards, Kevin."
I'm out. I'm out. I'm out. A big sloppy ki-
Oh yeah,
Oh,
absolutely vile. But like, first of all, I like the polite ending of "regards"
regards.
for
Yes.
such a batshit letter. But to deny an affair with Michelle and then call yourself the future stepfather of Michelle's children is insane and absolutely going against the whole "we weren't having an affair."
It's madness.
This just doesn't stop. After Michelle's arrest, Darren was given custody of the two children. A court-appointed psychologist recommended that the children be allowed to visit their mother twice a month. Following the conviction, the psychologist reduced those visits to once a month. Their son stopped visiting Michelle when he was about 12, but as of this record, both their daughter and Michelle's parents continue to visit Michelle. Darren and Michelle's divorce was officially finalized in January 2002. In December 2012, he married his longtime partner, Kathy. Not that Kathy, the one who was snarky to Michelle because she deserved it. Um, no charges were ever made for the murder plot against Darren's life, which I also find fascinating.
Yeah.
Um, Even though she was in prison, Michelle continued to cause problems. She had sexual relationships with at least three different prison guards. One of the guards was forced to resign. He was married with children, and after knowing Michelle for a very short period of time, the guard told his wife of 30 years that he had a special bond with Michelle. At first, the guard was banned from visiting the prison, but once he was able, he was visiting Michelle every weekend. I'm fascinated to know if he's still doing that or if he gave up. Um, as of this moment, the rule is at the prison is still Michelle is no longer allowed to be alone with any male guards. And even though Michelle still claims to be innocent, multiple inmates have said that Michelle has bragged to them about Carolyn's death, and she would often give very gruesome details of the scene, including describing what Carolyn's face looked like when they murdered her. Does not sound like an innocent person to me. In August 2009, Kevin got caught placing multiple ads on an American based Lonely Hearts website. He said he was seeking female pen pals and listed his interests as poetry and making people happy. Kevin described himself as a widower who was honest, caring, genuine, and a good friend. When the Correctional Services Minister learned of the ads, he had them removed. Carolyn's mother, Yvonne, who paid for both her daughter's funeral and her headstone, has since tried to have the headstone changed because it includes the line, adored wife of Kevin. But since Kevin was the one to officially sign for the headstone, the only way it can be changed is either by Kevin himself or if Kevin signs over permission to someone else. So Yvonne said whenever she visits, she just places a piece of tape over that offensive line and she will continue to replace it as necessary so she never has to see it again. Kudos, Yvonne. In July 2010, David Key transferred to a prison in Perth to be closer to his parents, which is funny because they actually left the area and went to Perth when he got convicted and they wanted to just avoid anything to do with him. He was eligible for parole a few years ago, but I don't know if he was released or not. As of this record, Michelle Burgess is still incarcerated at the Adelaide Women's Prison in Northfield. Kevin Matthews appears to be at a facility at Mount Gambier. They both tried to appeal over the years, but their appeals were dismissed. Both still claim to be innocent and absolutely still deny that they ever had an affair. I don't know when their official 30-year non-parole period started, possibly in 2001 when they were arrested. But really, this means Michelle and Kevin will be eligible for parole within the next 6 to 8 years. So it will be interesting to see if they actually get out. If they do, are they reuniting? Who knows? Reporting for this absolute roller coaster, I'm Christy Oxborrow.
I'm almost speechless. Let's take a quick break, hit the can, and we'll be back with our thoughts on the Carolyn,
Matthews.
thank you, Matthews case on True Crime and Cocktails. Clap two on three. One, two, three. Welcome back to the Carolyn Matthews episode of True Crime and Cocktails. Um, this was just the wildest ride. Honestly, I
Yeah.
know you prepped us for it, but not in my wildest dreams did I ever see like paper sandwich,
Hmm.
any of these details coming. Yard sale receipt, so many things.
Yeah.
Um, oh my God. Listen, where to even begin? Um, okay. From early on, the fact that Darren found Michelle's letters in his car asking this radio host Denise for advice, why leave them in his car if you're not trying to get caught? Feels to me
Oh.
like Lady Jane is addicted to the drama, is addicted to the
Oh.
chaos. Feels like that's got to be part of it. And then, I mean, listen, we don't have enough time because I feel like I could do an entire like 8-part series on this woman and what's up because there is something.
Hmm.
I mean, it's fascinating. It's
Yeah.
always fascinating to me when you hear those stories about someone. um, like her who just has this effect on people and can like seduce people and, you know, make them feel like they're so special and they're the only one or whatever. And she's doing it to multiple people at the same time. I mean, it's
Right?
fascinating. Um, every time you said Cassandra, my brain went, and her name was Cassandra. Wayne's World.
Of
Um,
course.
couldn't stop myself.
I wouldn't
Uh,
want you to.
thank you very much. The story about Kevin and Michelle going to lunch every day, like 3 to 4 times a week, but never eating, having 8 drinks, and then quote fondling each other openly. The word
Yeah.
fondle is almost like panties for me. Like it's
Oh,
yeah,
that
I
was a
know.
warning that should have been happening.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Fondle, it's so I hate that
Fondle is your
word.
level.
I don't like it.
I'll say it. I almost like in my own mouth when I had to read the word naughty earlier.
Yeah, naughty.
As soon as I went to read it, I was like, I don't want to say that out loud.
You're my naughty little pet.
Yes, I did
Yeah.
think of that as well, but it, there's just somebody using the word naughty in like a, oh, bad boy,
Yeah.
naughty, like that. I'm like, get out, gross. No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
It's like the P word
Yeah.
because I'm an adult and won't say it.
Listen.
Yeah.
Ugh. The police laughing at Darren and Kathy trying to get the restraining order reminded me of Baby Reindeer. Um,
I never
and
did
again,
see it.
oh, you got to watch it. It's really good. But yeah, I just like that idea that the police, if it's a female perpetrator, then the police can sometimes have this terrible mindset of like, oh, come on, what's she gonna do type thing. And it's like, well, in this case, have someone murdered. So,
Yeah.
um, the detail of the Christmas shopping in July. I love Christmas. I like Christmas shopping early, not that early.
Oh, that's
Um,
insane.
every detail about David, every detail. I mean, I'm glad to hear that he was evaluated by a psychologist, a forensic psychologist who was like, "Oh no, there's some stuff going on there," because the idea that it's like, I know how to make it look like an accident. I'll tie her up, put her in her car and push it off a hill. You okay, bud? Do you hear yourself? Do you hear the holes in the plan, man? Like that's
Yeah.
scary. That's a
Oh, yeah.
scary, um God, and also the combination of having antisocial personality disorder and borderline, I don't even know. That's a lot. That's a lot. Because again, the antisocial would mean like no sense of empathy and the BPD would mean like, oh my God. It's an interesting combo because the BPD is like, and I'm speaking very generally. And again, I could do an entire podcast just on this for weeks and weeks. And listen, I'd be happy as a clam. But yeah, the BPD is like, switching. So, like, perhaps becoming very terrified of getting abandoned and then, pulling someone close and then pushing them away really hard. Like, so it's interesting to think about that in tandem with the antisocial personality disorder. If those diagnoses are correct, that's an interesting stew. Um, the detail that David showed Carolyn the murder contract saying, "Is this you?" Now,
Yeah.
that is again, who said, like, he knows it's her. They've gone to her home.
Yeah.
Michelle is with him.
Yeah.
There's no need. What it just feels theatrical or performative or something. Like, and then the fact that then Michelle comes out of nowhere and punches her in the face. What is this plan, guys? This whole story is chilling to me because it's so unhinged and like really feels like, again, it feels like for so long Michelle didn't give a shit about Carolyn at all, and then one day she was just like, it's her fault, and then that became her complete focus.
Yeah.
How was Oh shit, sorry. How was Carolyn standing in the way of her being with Kevin? What's
I,
standing
it,
in the way?
it's almost like she was fine with her being there until the moment that Darren left. And
Right.
then it was like, well, now I've lost my source of money.
Right.
And now it's like, well, if Carolyn left, then I would have my source of money again and I could just suddenly move in and be with Kevin. And for some reason, instead of looking inward and being like, maybe Darren left because of me,
Well,
um, she had to blame someone else. I think she just needed herself angry at Carolyn so that she could get rid of her.
well, and it's interesting too, though, because if she had had Darren killed, in theory, she could have potentially gotten life insurance money or the estate. Like,
Right,
I don't know if he had quickly changed his will or something. Like, there was more of a
right.
chance, not that I'm suggesting anyone should ever try and kill a spouse
Of
at all.
course.
Obviously, without question, no. But in her twisted mind, it's just interesting to me that it was like Darren wasn't the focus. I feel like she had more to
Right.
gain from Darren. Carolyn, it feels like it's this weird whim that she just got stuck on.
I think it was, if she's honest with herself, it's because she knew Kevin wasn't leaving her.
Right, right,
And so she was
right.
like, well, I'm going to force him so he has no choice. I
And she
do find
likes to
it,
do that. She
yeah,
likes to force people to do things because my next note was, of course, her forcing David to kill Carolyn to prove his love for her. And the fact that he did it, the hold that this woman has on these men is
yeah.
fascinating.
Oh, 100%. I don't know how she was pulling any of this off. Like, she managed to get Darren to stay, even though he knew she was cheating on him for so long. And it's like, convinces a man that works with her husband to cheat. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. He's my friend. And then he does it for years and then gets Kevin and then get like so many of these men. I'm just shocked that they were like, whatever you need, immediately on board.
She must be crazy charismatic and charming.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say something that's going to seem crass. There's she's got to be right?
Yeah.
Like there's like I'm not to
Hmm.
be no, I'm not suggesting that men will kill just because a woman is good in the sack. I'm not suggesting that, but I'm like
Hmm.
there's got to be an element. But it's like what's she doing? Like what's the secret here? Not that
Yeah.
I'm attempting to take notes, never could, never would. But you know what I mean? Like it's like what's she doing?
Yeah. I mean,
These men are literally like, I will kill for you. I will do
yeah.
anything. I will sacrifice my morals, my ethics, my friendships, my family, like all of these things. It's like, I feel like the way, and I'm speaking in very general terms, do not come for me, but I feel like the way that a man could manipulate a woman to do those things would just be very different than the way a woman
Sure.
manipulates a man. And I feel like the physical element must play a part. And again, the fact that they found her like having sex in her car, like the fact that she was having relations with three separate prison guards, and one of them was like, "I'm leaving my wife of 30 years because I have this great connection with Michelle." Like,
I
there's something
can't.
up there. You know what I mean? Like, it's a perfect storm. This woman is like, I don't know.
I just can't believe, like, again, Kevin was with Carolyn for 17, like, they were married for 17 years. I think
Yeah.
about 16 years when he started cheating. I also don't know. I know he cheated at the beginning of the relationship. I don't know if he was cheating at any point in between. I don't know if Michelle was a sudden, like, change he made to start cheating. But after 17 years, it was like, yeah, he's willing to throw his life away for this woman. And that prison guard throwing out his marriage after 30 years is insane to me. How much time did the two of you spend together?
Well, also in the context of like sneaking around in the prison. Like, I mean, listen, I've never been, I'm only judging this by what I've seen on television and
Of
film,
course.
but like, I don't feel like, is there a ton of time to really get to know somebody like deeply enough to leave your wife of 30 years? But again, there's something up with the way that she's learned to manipulate has to play into I am, this whatever you want to label it as, the manic pixie dream girl. Like I am this like
Sure.
magical entity you never thought you had a chance with, or what have you. Like, it's also got to be how she's choosing the men that she chooses, right?
Right.
I would think. She's probably going for certain types of men. Again, David is a great example as somebody who, you know, has a lot going on in the old
Sure.
noggin. Maybe that's someone that she would see as being a great target for her manipulation because I mean it worked. He did kill for her.
He did.
Um, oh yeah, I wrote down Michelle forced David to kill her to prove his love. I just want someone to prove their love for me by watching Love is Blind with me.
Yeah.
Um, Very simple ask. Okay,
Yes.
Kevin picked up his sons that night and took them to the video store.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it feels like why wait in the car? Like if you go inside, you have a clear alibi. Now I understand that he was maybe waiting for the phone call from her, but
Sure.
it's interesting to me that he was insistent on sending them in alone. I don't know. That just bumped me. I was like, that's weird. And then it's also like, how much of this was he in on? I mean, again, um, so many things. I just got to David eating Carolyn's murder contract, something that will never leave me. So many of these
Yeah.
episodes blur together and disappear after we record them. I'll never forget this for as long as I live. It's the most insane thing. It's one of the most insane things I've ever heard on this show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because again, I'm like, you can't not know that paper disappears when you burn it. There's no choice. There's no chance. There's
Mhm.
more of a chance of it processing, not processing through your body and somehow getting retrieved than there is if you burn it.
Yeah.
I can't. Um, could also have gotten sick. I need to let it go. I can't. You could back yourself up eating that amount of paper. The
Yeah.
body doesn't digest it. It's cellulose. Fun fact. Cows have
Hey,
multiple stomachs, so they're able to digest cellulose. They could eat paper, which is why the reason why they can eat grass. Human beings can't.
drive out to a farm and feed it to a cow. Don't.
Already a
Don't.
well, again, I would say just stay at home with a match or a lighter. But yes, yes,
Yeah.
feed it to something other than yourself. My God.
But if you go to a farm, you have a good chance of maybe seeing a duck.
And that, dear listeners, is what we call a full circle moment. All right, a couple more
Yeah.
thoughts, and then I'll wrap it up. In Michelle's diary, she wrote Kevin an acrostic poem.
Yeah.
I just wrote vigorous barf.
Oh, I don't believe any of the words she used. And if I'd had more time, I was going to come up with my own
Yeah.
for him, but I didn't have the time. And I was
No.
also like, I also don't want to think about him too hard.
No.
Venomous
Michelle,
would have been my V word.
what's that?
Venomous.
Oh, sure. Or villainous. Yeah.
Oh God, that's
Um,
better.
Michelle met her new boyfriend, Jason, who is a friend of David's. I simply wrote in all caps, who is this woman?
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah.
Um, she claimed that she wasn't with David on the day of the murder, that it was actually Jason when we know that she was. I just wrote down facepalm. Like it's like this is crazy.
Yeah.
This woman is like, yeah, I would need so much time to build a proper profile, but like this woman is like insane narcissism, like just crazy. Thinking she can get away with everything, thinking that she's smarter than everybody. Again, manipulating just countless men to do her bidding to the
Yep.
point of murder. The fact that Jason and Kevin both went to Michelle's trial not knowing that the other person was still having sex with her. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and say,
Yep.
even if she wasn't in prison, she was just in like a holding cell. I think the chances that she fucked somebody when she was in jail before getting sentenced are pretty high. I think there's a pretty high
Mm.
probability she could have had sex with the judge. Who knows? This woman is a one woman wrecking ball. Like
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
absolutely it's almost inspiring. It's not, but it almost is. You know what I mean?
It is, it's a lot. To be clear, we're like, have a million partners if you want.
Absolutely.
We're not, that's not what this is about. This is, don't, uh, don't be sleeping with a bunch of people and making them think you're only sleeping with them,
Oh, it's
you know?
she's using it to control and manipulate people into doing what she wants. I mean, do you like again, I don't think that she's like Yeah, it's not that this is a bon vivant who's living her best life. She's doing it. I mean, again, she made a man kill for her to prove his love.
I would be
Unbelievable.
fascinated to know what she's up to now. Like, are they going to let her go even if she still says, I wasn't involved, there was no affair?
No,
Like, just scream, yeah, okay, there was an affair.
I don't know what they get by continuing to hide it. I don't know what it matters at this point. They were already found guilty.
Yeah, but they say they're innocent,
Hmm.
absolutely innocent, and there was never an affair. And I'm like, but we already know. Like, I don't, at this point, it's been so long. Just admit it.
They're as innocent as my hair is my natural color. Um, so Oh, very quickly. Kevin brought in a hat with forever written in it and kept flashing it to her. This reminds me of when I was in kindergarten and I was in the Christmas pageant. I was the letter S in the word that spelled Christmas. My S represented stocking. And our grandfather and our one of our aunts came to watch it because it was like a midday assembly. And our grandfather was in a bright yellow jacket that he used to always wear. And he was in the back of the gym waving hands overhead, waving at me. Now, because I was a consummate professional, even in kindergarten, I did not wave back. I did a little tiny wave with my pointer finger like this, the tiniest little thing.
Adorable.
But then later, our aunt was like, I can't believe she didn't see him. He's wearing yellow. He's waving his arms. And I didn't know how to tell her, like, I just am a professional. Okay.
Wow. That makes so much sense.
Hmm.
It's also adorable. Waving his arms.
I know.
Come
So
on.
cute. Very cute. Um, Kevin would give Jason messages to give Michelle. What did Jason think? What what spell did she cast on Jason? Okay, listen, Jason. Kevin's gonna tell you things like he's madly in love with me and whatever. It's all a ruse. Like, what is I can't. It's
I know.
absolutely bonkers. David's code name was Candy and Jason's code name was Sag. Why did he give up the whimsy so early? Kevin and Michelle were Hansel and Gretel. That feels like it connects to Candy. Give Jason any other name. What about Sugar? Anything would have worked, Kev.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, Hansel and Gretel are siblings.
It's very creepy. It's very creepy. Um, all right. Final thought. Kevin gets caught putting ads on those Lonely Hearts ads out. He said one of his interests was poetry. And to
Yeah.
that I say, acrostic poems. Reporting for True Crime and Cocktails, I'm Lauren Ash.
I mean, he does seem to love poetry. He did write that poem to her, called I Do, which is also wild. Like, do you really believe that when you get out, if you get out, you two are gonna be together?
That woman has 8 boyfriends right now, minimum. Minimum. One's in the facility, one's not. If you think she's not on some sort of, she's going to be on like Love After Lockup Australia. Like this woman is, it's only a matter of
Oh,
time for her.
that's a good point. Well,
Christy Oxborrow, this is truly one of the wildest cases I feel like I've ever had the pleasure of learning about from you. 12 out of 10. Fantastic work as always.
oh, oh, what an honor. I didn't know what to expect from this, but it kept giving.
It gives. And we thank you, dear listeners, for coming with us on this wild ride. If you haven't already, give us a follow on the socials on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at True Crime and Cocktails, on Twitter at Not Detectives. If you'd like some bonus content, go over to patreon.com/, True Crime and Cocktails to learn more about our subscription-based service over there where there's bonus episodes. You can vote in a monthly poll, all sorts of fun things. The only place for official True Crime and Cocktails merch is, of course, truecrewmerch.com. So check that out if you're interested. And please give my brand new song Dumpster Fire some streams over on Spotify. Your support on that means so very much to me. Christy, do you want to tell the people about next week's episode?
Well, fun fact, I'm gonna give them two.
Oh,
Because on the next episode of True Crime and Cocktails, Taste of Patreon 5,
that's
which,
right. Uh, Dear listeners, sometimes we like to, well, this is the fifth time over the past 5 years we've been doing the show.
Yeah.
That we like to give you a little taste of what we do over there on Patreon, a little teaser, if you will, a couple of episodes to pique your interest, perhaps. So that will be fun for all. And for anyone who's on Patreon, it'll be a fun little walk down memory lane for you. Christy, do you want to say goodnight to the people?
Well, I was gonna give them two. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you meant there's 2 episodes in the Taste of
Oh, I hadn't
Patreon.
even considered that. I was just saying because I worried people were going to hear Taste of Patreon and be like, there's not going to be true crime. And then I was going to say, well, the week after that,
Ah,
on June 24th, you're going to get The Butcher Baker.
fantastic.
So there you go. As far as good night goes, good night, dumpster fire.
Oh, we fell in love with a dumpster fire. So damn hot, but such a liar.